Whatever the formula is for Guards Ball, this definitely is not it. We'll answer today if this is fixable for the Guardians in 2025.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into a Monday episode of Locked On Guardians. We're here with you for a warm hug. It has been very hard lately. I think we all need a pat on the back or some kind of hug to get through this together. We're all in this together, as they would say on One Eye Face. My wife would get very mad if I don't remember the movie what that's from, but we're all in this together. And
I just think of the song by Nine Inch Nails. We're in this together now. Nothing can stop us now. We'll get through somehow.
Oh,
hey.
We went to very different places with that saying. Okay. I definitely know. I mean, hey, Trent Reznor is a North Ohio guy, but yeah, we're talking about movies. Yeah, maybe from movie. We're talking about movies, and we're talking about Nine Inch Nails. We're doing anything we can to avoid talking about the Cleveland Guardians, but we can't do that because this is Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. It is still our favorite half hour of the week. I'm trying to make myself believe that, where we talk about the Cleveland Guardians, the majors, the minors, the draft, and everything in between. For the next half hour, we're glad you're here with us, whether it's your first time here or you're an everydayer. I'm Justin Lada. I have been covering the Guardians minor league system since 2007, providing scouting analysis and prospect write-ups, all those good things. And I've been here since October of 2022 with my good friend and co-host and the other half of your therapy partner, Jeff Ellis.
I am, that said, Jeff Ellis, back in the podcasting basement / dungeon. Thank you to everyone who were very kind.
We're all in a dungeon right now. We're all in a dungeon right now.
We're all in an emotional and mental dungeon right now. I am, as he said, Jeff Ellis. We're getting close to 1,500 episodes of this show going on. I've been there for basically all of them. Before that, I was a national writer at Scouting 24/7, focused on prospects in the draft. I just finished my 37th draft profile. We'll have some draft news eventually here on network. I want to thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever it is you get podcasts. And a big shout out to all 5 of our everydayers who are watching after this rough weekend. We really appreciate.
Come on. Yeah. I can tell you we've definitely got over 40 everydayers because they are also our insiders. Shout out to our insiders.
Okay, so are all 44 people who are going to watch the video tomorrow after this weekend. Thank you.
Yeah,
comment
really
below.
Well. Yeah. All right, on today's show, we are going to have to get into the ugliness that was this weekend, that really is this team right now. We're going to talk about who we've seen enough of on the Guardians so far and who it's time to move on from or when it's time to move on from them. We're really going to answer the question if it's not, this is fixable. The Guardians 25 season is salvageable at this point. And we're also going to discuss the fact that Guards Ball pretty much is MIA at this point. And I'm going to give Jeff a stat that proves it, and he's going to react. So, Jeff, before we get into that, today's episode of Locked On Guardians is brought to all of our everydayers by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Jeff, the Guardians have made an error in 10 straight games. 10! What do you think about that? Is that believable, the way this stretch?
I have a quote that I've said many times on the show over the last now 3 seasons, which is good teams find ways to win and bad teams find ways to lose. They started the year as a good team, but they have, and actually they started the year as kind of a bad team, leveled off, and they've kind of gone back. And it's just, I think part of the problem, honestly, too, is like, it's the inconsistency. Like the one thing you can say about last year's team, it was just kind of plug and play, and the same guys were there all the time. And you got to have moments where you build up and you knew how things were going to work and play out. For instance, like when Gabby got pulled off the base was Schneemann double clutched. That's just 2 guys who haven't played a ton together. Like Gabby was already trying to turn a double play. Schneemann double clutched. If they played more together more often, they might have been, that type of communication, that knowing of each other doesn't happen. So I think some of this is the national reaction of, I gotta be honest, Stephen Vogt has spent the last month and a half pulling every wrong lever, trying to figure out how to get these, which guys are going to hit at which time, or which the answer is none of them. And then, like the bullpen use and, just it's the starting pitching is great. Unfortunately, everything else around them has been steaming piles for about the last month.
Yeah. I know everyone's like upset with Vogt, and you're saying he's pulling the wrong levers. I got to be honest. Again, this is a situation where I come to where I think we're giving too much credit and too much blame to managers and coaches, and not focusing enough on the players who actually are doing the baseball playing. Like I know there's a couple decisions each game that a manager can make that change. Well, yeah, then they could change the course of a game. Sure, they're questionable. We've seen him overuse David Festa. We think we're getting to that.
Matt Festa. David's the Twins guy.
Oh yeah,
you're getting confused with his overuse of David Fry and Matt Festa and combining it into one human.
Yeah,
the overuse of Kobe Allard.
Yes,
it's like here again. Platoons are good if you have the pieces. Him sticking to platoons when this team doesn't have the pieces for platoons is nonsensical. Like, now you got
guys that are on the right side, like Daniel Sheeman, even though he's having a terrible June, has hit right-handers well this year, but he doesn't have a left-handed caddy. They don't have. I mean, Angel Martinez has hit lefties better this year. Those two should platoon. I guess they kind of have, but Angel is so streaky, so they just don't have any. Like you're right, they don't have any consistency. Platoons do work, but it's also hard to platoon. Like, I think it's hard to platoon a right-handed hitter as a young player. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like if you're a left-handed hitting or a left-handed masher that's a specialist there, and you're young, that's a lot harder. Like that's why you see guys like Brandon Geyer and Ryan Rayburn.
That's why I say trade for Alex Call, who's 30 years old.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he hasn't been in the league that long, but he is older. That's what I mean. The more experienced types, the guys that have been around. Yeah, the guys that have been more experienced and around it, they know how to do it. It's easier when you're a left-handed hitter because you're facing more right-handed hitters, so you're getting more reps when you're young, which is, with Chase DeLauter, like that would work better because, he's going to play more often, so you can do those sort of things. But when you're hitting lefties better and you're a young player, like the John Kenza Noel situation, and I don't think platooning Noel really hurt him. I think the fact that Noel's approach is so bad, that's what hurt him, and it caught up to him, just like Oscar Gonzalez. So platoons can work, and Noel was never like a lefty killer. He was just a approach guy. Like it was just a bad approach, whether it was a righty or a lefty. Like that was agnostic. He just struggled with certain things. There's really no simple answer. Like David Fry is not the guy he was a year ago. Their defensive ranking this year is terrible, by the way.
One of those things with David Fry, we got to be very honest with, is he had 2 very strong months and not much around.
The hair is what you're saying?
Yeah, it could be, and it could have been. Then that's the big debate. It's like, well, did he fall off because they overplayed him and he was hurt? Did he fall off, or was it just like? I mean, I think when he can play the field, he is a big league player who can be a platoon guy who can play 3 positions. If you try to do more than that with him, I think he's too limited. And I think, unfortunately, we saw a year ago, like Vogt does with Festa, and like he's doing now with Fry, when someone is like his dude, and Tito did the same thing. It's just a manager thing. Like he is like Friday night, I think it was, you don't have Jose. Let's also have Fry play.
That was weird. But David Fry is still in spring training mode. That's the problem. David Fry probably should have opened the year in the minors because he didn't have a whole
right now.
He should be, but he should have opened the year there. They were just hoping that would add something to the lineup, to go with Manzardo, because that Manzardo, like nobody was complaining about platoons last year when Manzardo and Fry in the playoffs were one of the most effective combos they had. It worked, and it can work. Those two guys do offer you something that can be very good combined, but right now Manzardo has a bad approach, and David Fry can't do anything. I'm going to choose to believe more for right now that Fry, and the team has bigger issues than David Fry, but I'm going to choose to believe right now that David Fry is just it's going to be a tough year for him overall because he had the surgery and he's coming back from missing time in spring training is very hard. I think he can hit lefties. The minor league track record suggested. I know the gap from the gap from the majors and the minors is very big, but the track record has always been there for him. It might be a tough year for him overall, and he should go down. All right, we've got more to talk about with this team. We'll talk about the disappearance of guards ball, whatever that looks like these days. I think guards ball is what you see right now, unfortunately. We'll talk about whether or not the Guardians can go on a second half run and fix this and how that would happen. And we'll talk about what players have we seen enough of at this point to start thinking about moving on from. All coming up next. The summer, it is hot, and the sports, they're in full swing, even though the Guardians aren't hot right now. Baseball under the lights, golf on the green, high-stakes soccer action, all a lot of fun, and FanDuel is the best way for you to make every game more exciting and responsible. you're already following all this action. We know it's maybe not Guardians action at this point, but it's other action that's out there. You should make it a little bit more thrilling responsibly. With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are all getting sunburned at the beach. You can make a little bit of money with friends at FanDuel. And if you really want to be a little bit froggy, the Guardians, I think, are 2,500 to 1 at this point on coming back in the AL Central. They're 11.5 out. That's one of the bets I found on FanDuel right now is the division race since the Guardians are off today. But, if you feel a little bit froggy and you want to throw $5 down on that and think about making a long-term play and hoping for a second half return, there you go. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Jeff, let's go back into guards ball a little bit more. So some of the things that I was just kind of looking at, statistical trends so far, getting away from guards ball. The defense is pretty bad. So when you look at chase rate for the season, this is something that they didn't do a lot of in the last couple of years, right? This is something they were pretty good about was not, making a lot of contact. At this point, they are chasing out of the zone way more, honestly, than I ever thought possible. And it is getting pretty concerning. Here it is, pitch level data. It's going to play discipline because I lost
a lot more guys who like Angel who's played a lot. He's a big chaser. Gabby's a big. It's Noel was up for a while. Like they have a lot more guys who expand, and it's
hurting them. Yeah, 31.1%. That is second worst in baseball by chasing. So they don't work walks. They actually here's the other real problem too. And I'm not saying like guards ball is perfect or works because obviously it did and it didn't, but. The Guardians right now are 5th worst in baseball in strikeout rate. So they really did dive back in on hitters who strike out a little bit more to try to get more power, right? There's Nolan Jones. They had Noel forever, like you said. And other guys, Lane Thomas has struck out a lot too. Some of it chasing and some of it due to being a little bit passive. But they are 5th worst in strikeouts this year. That has not been a recipe in the past for them when it comes to guard ball.
K percentage though, so it's a little bit. Not quite when you're looking at like the whole picture of the pie.
That's what I just did with strikeout rate as a hitting team. They're 5th worst. What did you look at?
FanGraphs right now, K percentage has them.
Is that pitching? Because I'm looking at it on FanGraphs and it has them. Maybe that changed after today. I don't know. I'm looking at.
I have 81 games in, 22.6% K percentage.
Yeah, I'm seeing 22.6, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying as well, but that would be 11th in baseball.
Oh, you're right. It is 11th. You're right. Okay, so I see 11th. Either way, not a good recipe. I guess it's middle of the pack. It's not very good. Yeah. Not where they have been, in the past. Obviously, we talked about fielding, where this team was. Right now, Jeff, this team, errors are not the best way to judge, I think, defense, but they have 61 errors on the year. That's 3rd worst. And again, they've made errors in 10 straight games. And the errors have been sloppy too. Like we're talking about like pickoff throws and pitcher fielding practice they're messing up and just a lot of bad throws out there. This is not the recipe for guard ball. And they don't run the bases anymore either. If you go and look at all the base running stats by team on places like FanGraphs, the BSR base running stat, which was something they were really high in 2022 when this whole guards ball thing took off, 1.7. That's 10th best in baseball. So it's not that bad, but it's still nowhere near they need to be because of this team being a team that doesn't really hit either. And if you look at weighted stolen bases too, they're 9th best in baseball at 1.5. But again, this is an offense that needs to be better. Like the best team in baseball is the Cubs at 8.2. So you say, okay, they're only 9th back, but guess what? The teams that are below them are the Pirates at 1.1. And then when you get to the 14th place for the Athletics, they're negative. They're in the negative. So the Guardians are better than some very bad teams. They're not going to be a good team either. When you combine them with a team that can't hit and has a bullpen that's very leaky, you're not doing the little things. You're not playing defense. You're not running the bases. You're not drawing walks. What's the one thing this team does well? Because I would say at this point, Jeff, it's starting pitching. Because the starting pitching in the month of June was actually really good. It was one of the best in baseball. But outside of that, like I can't think of one thing this team does well. Like I think the last thing I heard was that the Guardians do well. They have like they have the most sack flies in baseball.
I mean, there's a few things. one, again, if they're top 10 in base running, it's still top 10. Like, you can't quite gloss over it. And they honestly have not been top 5 in a while. It's not a team that takes advantage of it. FanGraphs defensive metric actually has them with the 6th best defense in baseball, in spite of all the negatives. And a lot of other, like, Fielding Bible is high on their defense as well. They're making mistakes, but they're also doing.
You can't call this a good defense. You cannot. You can't make errors in 10 straight games. Okay, maybe it's a bad stretch. Maybe that defense was like May. I
think the one thing that helps the defense so much in terms of valuation, the one thing I think we can all agree on that they do well, I think everyone can agree, is cannon arms in that outfield. Like, outfield assists is the one thing that I think is, and I think in fairness, I agree. I think the infield defense has been very leaky this year. I know people are going to talk about Andres, but it's not just Andres. It's Cal Manzardo, oops, all errors and his issues at first.
Jose
has been very inconsistent. Like, he's having, even Juan's range is down. It's one of the weirdest things.
was bad before he got sent down.
Yeah, I mean, Gabby's been spectacular. Schneemann has really good range metrics too. So but then it's getting guys to play together. But I do think, like, all of the outfield assists are helping their defensive metrics a lot, because that is the one area, no matter how you feel about this team, they've been deadly with the throws they make between Juan and Jones and Lane Thomas.
Even Angel had some assists.
Yeah, and Angel has done Angel, I think, was playing well defensively. I mean, Angel is Angel. He's going to be streaky as heck, and right now we're in one of those. Bad streaks.
I know people back in April who were like, "Oh, this guy's got to play every day," and it's like, well, they did, and this is what we're seeing right now. So some guys, I know everyone's like, you got to play these guys every day. Angel basically plays every day. Cal Manzardo does basically play every day. I know there's a stretch there he didn't play a lot, but he basically plays every day. And right now, like, my Manzardo's going through a bad stretch too. Like, he's not hitting.
No, Manzardo's actually been positive of late. Like, his data.
Okay. He's over 100 WRC plus, but it's just power, nothing else. Like,
I mean, I'll take over 100. It still means he's being more productive than league average. There's not a lot of guys you can say that about on this team.
I know. It's only 4. It was what? Juan, Thomas, Manzardo, Jose, and Jones, right?
Yeah.
That's 5.
Yeah, but that's the guys. And over the course of the year, it's like Jones isn't in that group, but over the whole year you have like Santana is sitting in the high 90s, so he's about league average, and then it's
all based on that really hot May, because he's come back to earth since then. Here's the thing I want to ask, actually. So, Stephen Vogt talks a lot about how, well, we didn't play like ourselves, right? Like, after the night they make a lot of errors or make errors, and they give up a lead, or they don't play a clean game in general. And he says, tonight we just didn't play like ourselves. I feel like I've heard Stephen Vogt say that like at least 10 times this month. And I just said they made errors in 10 straight games. Some of them are pickoff. And I don't know how much these defensive metrics take into account, like, pickoff throws that are errant too. Because that's, if you go back and you want to say they made errors in 10 straight.
It's going to take into account the misplay on it. Because it costs a defensive run. It costs the team defensive runs. So the DRS would take into account that.
Yeah, I mean, those aren't fielder plays. Those are pitching plays. Those are pitchers that are making those errors. And obviously, those are unearned runs that they score.
Well, I mean, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's Manzardo off of one of those, too, making an error on the
some pickup. Of them, too. But I mean, I know, but Ortiz and Ciccone and other guys have made errors recently, too. It hasn't been Manzardo. It's been the pitchers.
It's not. It's more often not the pitchers. One of the stat I do want to throw out, though, it's like, I guess, to keep, as we get close to break, to throw some potential positivity, they actually have the second worst BABIP in baseball at 271. So the crazy thing in June.
What drives down BABIP, Jeff? What drives down BABIP?
Well, no matter quality of contact.
Quality of contact. Do they make good contact?
260 is abnormally low. Let's be very honest. 271 is abnormally low. Like, even with teams that make poor quality of contact, they tend to surface closer around. The league average is close to 290 now. 271, even with bad contact, is below average. So there is some signs that, like, we talk about expected, batting average and how many games the expected batting average has not gone in their favor. Again, I'm not saying this is a good offense or a good team, but there is. I don't agree with Vogt's take, and we'll get into that in segment 3. But there is a degree of, like, some of these players should be performing better just based on the hard data, which is what we said, in fairness, about Nolan Jones, and it ended up being true. So,
yeah, he just hasn't provided the one thing you traded him for, which was power. He's improved, but he's improved just because he's walking more, and he's
getting more hits. He's getting on base. He's getting more hits. Some doubles.
There's singles. You didn't trade for Nolan Jones. If you wanted to get more singles, you could have kept Tyler Freeman. The reason Nolan Jones came here was because of power. We'll talk more about this in the next segment, and I'll ask Jeff whether or not this is who the Guardians are next on Locked On Guardians. Once again, thanks for being here with us and making Locked On Guardians your first listen today, every day. Wherever it is you get podcasts, make sure you're auto-downloading on audio. So even if you don't want to listen to that day's episode because the Guardians didn't play well or whatever you're doing, if you auto-download on audio, you still help us out by doing that. Even if you don't want to listen, you're still helping us out. So you can have it there and come back to when you're ready to listen to us and you're ready to listen to something about the Guardians. Same on YouTube. Hit the bell, subscribe, make sure you never miss an episode or the MLB Squad Show, all those sorts of things. Check it out over there. If you want to air some frustrations too, you can join the Insiders group. I've had a lot of people texting me this weekend. Yeah, I was out of town, but they texted me as part of the Insiders group, venting their frustrations about this weekend. You can join up at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnGuardians to be an insider, and we can text about these things and do a little bit in-game therapy, as it were, and talk about who's not in the lineup and who's coming up and why certain guys aren't coming up and when there's going to be media availability. All right, I got a couple things to get into here, Jeff. First of all, I was going back to what I was saying before, that Stephen Vogt continues to say that this is, we didn't play like ourselves tonight. Again, I've heard this like at least 10 times in the month of June. At some point, that is who you are, is it not? You can't sit there and say more often than not, we didn't play like ourselves tonight, because you're playing like this almost every night. At some point, this is who you are. You are a team that is not playing good defense, or you're making too many errors. You are a team that can't hit with runners in scoring position, low BABIP or not. You are a team that is having a bullpen that isn't having a hard time holding leads at this point. Like Cade Smith hasn't been available in over a week due to a back spasms, and they're hoping that Tuesday he'll be able to avoid the NIL stint. Hunter Gaddis is struggling. Matt Fest has been overused. Colby Allard's been overused. You don't have Andrew Walters. Frank Wallemon's not really an option right now because he's struggling. At some point, this is who you are. Like, you can't keep saying we didn't play like ourselves, because the more often you keep saying that, it's not true, because you have to keep saying it, and you're not playing like the version you think you are. So is this the version of the Guardians we get? Is this a team that's a below 500 team?
I don't think it's a below 500 team. I got to be honest. I when I look at the overall, what it took to get here, with this terrible month of June, like let's get to it, is they had to have the worst offense in baseball. I don't think that's going to stay consistent. I don't think when you have Jose and Juan, that's really something that's going to happen. And I think at some point they are going to call up, Brito and DeLauter in particular, and that's going to help them, because for as much as people want to complain about the slow play and this, they also, right now you can look at Kansas City with Jack Caglione and see like why they also don't want to rush guys up and put them through that.
I'm just going to say, by the way, Caglione, the chase rates, everything that's going wrong right now in the majors, I know it's very early on for him, but all the things that he's struggling with are things that we pointed out a year ago.
I know,
but I'm not afraid to sit there and pat ourselves in the back for that.
Well,
I'm not rooting for the guy to fail.
No.
I'm not waiting for the guy to fail. I'm just saying.
I've heard he's a great kid. I want him to be successful. I don't care if he haunts. I don't care if people are taunting me about Jack Caglione for the next decade. I don't care. I hope he's successful. I hear he's a great kid, so I hope he's successful, even if that means it's a division rival. But bringing him up,
what we were afraid of,
knee jerking and bringing that kid up and not letting him get properly acclimated, not letting him like overreacting to small sample sizes. That is why, part of what's made him one of the least effective players in Major League Baseball right now. They're taking their time, in my opinion, at this point. Like, again, I still have my questions with Kafis just because the under the hood data. I brought this up on Friday, and you weren't here, but I talked about how you can't really trust AAA data, but you have to look at specific data points because everyone hits in AAA. And when you look at things, it's like Chase's profile is pretty bulletproof right now. You mentioned like, well, David Fry isn't hurting the team. I think David Fry is hurting the team because they can't have David Fry.
I didn't say he wasn't hurting the team.
Well, I meant having him on the roster or something. It's like, I think he hurts this team more by the fact you can't have Chase.
He's not their biggest problem.
That's what you said. But I think one of the big problems with him, I should say, is that you can't have him and Chase on the roster if they're both going to be limited due to health concerns. I think David Fry, in a way, is blocking Chase DeLauter, which is, I know it's ridiculous to say, but you can't have two limited parts. Like, look at how poorly the bullpen was deployed this weekend when they probably should have just put Cade Smith on it's a 10-day for pitchers, or is it 15?
It's 15, but who are you going to call up, Jeff? Who's coming up from the minors?
With an injury, could bring back Enright. Enright looked decent.
Yeah, that's true. Injury,
It's
You're right.
I would rather have Enright than be shorthanded. So at the same time, like Fry, you can't have him and DeLauter, with DeLauter being limited. And the nice thing too, it's like Nolan Jones being okay. Let's say okay. Not say good. Let's say okay. Is like you have someone else who can play when Chase needs a few extra days off, because that's going to happen for a guy with his injury history. But you need to get those pieces up, and I think there's a pathway to success. Again, BABIPs don't tend to stay that low. They have a lot of guys who do hit the ball hard, contrary to, Lane Thomas has really turned it around in June. Nolan Jones started to turn around. In my opinion, right now, it's like Angel Martinez. Like, I really question going to him with the bases loaded. You don't want a guy who misses that much. You don't want a guy who chases that much. I don't know what to do about catcher. It's
there's
like
no other option there. There's just not.
I was throwing desperation texts at Justin about like potential catchers. We won't get into today. Maybe we'll save that for down the road. A pipe dream that I had, but it's a situation where Jose is Jose. Juan is going to be Juan. Thomas has shown signs of life. You get up Chase. You get up Brito. For all of Gabby's issues, shortstop was actually their 5th best position in terms of WRC ranks, and his defensive metrics are spectacular. Like, I know he has his moments, but he's saving runs out there.
Here's the thing about all this. You're talking about the offense, like where things are. That, to me, that's good enough. Like, they had a horrid month of offense, and you're right. I don't think it'll continue. I think eventually the law of averages will come around and help them out. But what you're describing to me sounds like a team that, at best, is mediocre offensively. Like,
that's all they were a year ago.
That's all they were a year ago, right? But here's the thing: they made the playoffs a year ago with a mediocre offense because they had a bulletproof bullpen. You don't have that this year. So one of the pieces on your team has to be the big piece of the team. It's either got to be the offense, maybe it's the starting pitching. I don't know.
But they also had they had a awful rotation. They do not have an awful rotation.
Right. So last year they had a mediocre offense, a great bullpen, and a bad rotation. This year, and they had a great defense a year ago. This year, defense has been leaky. The bullpen's been leaky. The rotation just now got on track, and the offense in June has been horrible. I don't know if this team is actually a contender with a mediocre offense this year. I think they got away with it last year because of the other pieces of the team that performed really well. They limited runs because of the bullpen and the defense. You don't have those things this year. So one of those things has to step up, and it can't just be starting pitching. Like, things have to even out. You're not going to be good at every one thing, but things have to even themselves out in terms of the roster. And that's what I'm saying. I think you're describing a team that is mediocre. The good thing is they're 2.5 games out of a wild card spot. I know you're going to get people saying like, well, we were in the LCS a year ago and we're aiming for a wild card spot. My goal coming into the year was not aiming for a wild card spot. I don't think it was Cleveland's either.
That's kind of baseball anymore, though. Like, Tampa was in one year, out the next. Kansas City is 6 games under 500. There's a degree. There's a lack of consistency year to year in baseball in general.
Unless you're an elite baseball problem. And
unless you're an elite team with money. That's just
it's not a Guardians problem. It's a baseball problem, especially the way the playoffs are set up now. Yeah. But I mean, I understand the goal shouldn't have been that coming in, but you have to adjust the goals, and getting in should still be something you want to do. And the good news is, if the Guardians go out next week and win 5 of 6 or 4 of 6, whatever, they're 2.5 out. They could still keep themselves in. They're not out of this. It's not over. But I will say this. I think the only way this team is going to improve, honestly, is internally. It's going to have to be at some point DeLauter, even if it's at the expense of Nolan Jones. I know Nolan's played better recently, but again, you traded for Nolan Jones for power. If you wanted a singles hitter, you could have kept Tyler Freeman, who could also play multiple positions.
Get rid of Nolan Jones because he might have to be your center fielder in a year. But I also think that you can.
I'm not worried about moving on from Nolan Jones.
But here's the thing: like, this team has been so bad in the outfield for so long. You're fine with a singles hitter. Like, you can run both those guys on the team. It's not like Nolan has to play every day. Like, you can't tell me that Jonathan Rodriguez is going to bring more to this team. Or
Jonathan Rodriguez should be playing baseball in Japan.
It's like you can have Chase DeLauter doesn't mean the death of Nolan Jones. I don't think there's any reason for that to be the case.
I'm just saying, if you're going to make room somehow, like for at bats, DeLauter. I mean, Rocchio didn't play on Sunday after Arias got hurt because it seemed like Rocchio was coming up, and he might still, even though Arias avoided a more serious injury. But I was like, I'd rather see Brito. Like, I know Schneeman's not an everyday shortstop, but I'd rather see Schneeman at short and put Brito at second than I would seeing Rocchio come back up. Like, Brito's overdue. I saw this other thing, too, and this is a quote we didn't get to from Antonetti. Maybe we can say, or Stephen Vogt, we can say for tomorrow. But I've seen enough of Rocchio. Like, Brito, and they're talking about workload management with Brito, too. I understand he's coming off of an injury himself, but he doesn't have an extensive injury history. It's a thumb. It's not feet like Chase DeLauter. It's not a core muscle issue. And Brito has played a ton.
A whole year with a broken thumb, right?
Right. Yeah. I don't think you need to play this whole game of build up with Juan Brito, especially with how many infielders you have on the roster anyway. It's so ridiculous. Brito should be up. I'm leery on Kafis, but you know what? Honestly, if you're not ready to call up DeLauter because of workload management, I would call up Kafis because, you know, why not? To me, the data at the minor league level is not going to improve. I think that's who he is. I think he's a guy who expands the zone a little bit. And
you're just talking about how this team has too many guys who expand the zone, though.
Right, but we know what those guys can't do. We know. I mean, okay, you can't tell me that on Tuesday you'd rather see CJ Kafis in right field over Jonathan Rodriguez. Jonathan Rodriguez does not belong in the major league.
No, I mean, I was like I said, on Friday I was very honest. It's like I would love to see them trade for a platoon guy, and if they're not going to do that, then it's like. But I thought that Brito and DeLauter need to be up, and Fry and Martinez need to go. And then it's like, then you have Schneeman as a super utility playing almost every day in that role. Like, cause he's going to be bouncing through the infield, giving guys days off. And then you've got,
and he's the kind of guy that could handle that role.
Yes. And then you got Nolan, who's there as your insurance and security blanket. Cause he hits lefties. Okay. He
draws walks.
DeLauter,
so that
and
he draws walks. So that gives him a bit of a floor. Yeah. I just think most of the improvements have to be internal. I don't like, you're talking about like Alex Call, which is fine, but like I don't think like this team is another bullpen arm. They're not going to upgrade a catcher. I think most of the improvements in this team have to be internal. It's going to have to be prospects that come up. Maybe 100%. You do find a bullpen arm. It isn't that hard to find a bullpen arm, truthfully. I know it might be paying a little bit, but it's not that hard. It's a little bit easier to do in the positions. And they don't need starting pitching. I don't think they do. So that's a good thing. That's the most expensive thing at trade deadline. But I think most of the improvements have to be internal. And if they're going to have some sort of Tigers-like second half, it's going to have to come with internal improvements. Forget the deadline. And by the way, not trading Class A at the deadline. We'll get into more of that tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah. That's one of those things I kind of went off on. And we'll have a good talk about that later this week. I want to thank you all for joining us. We are going to do more prospect talk tomorrow. With no game.
We got a quote from Vogt, prospects, draft, not trading Class A. We got a full show for you tomorrow, even though it's an off day. We're always here. We always deliver. Our BABIP is always consistent.
We want to thank you all for joining us. Remember to rate and review, download daily, and go Guardians, go.